Hey everybody, today I am putting together the absorbency video for the ultimate cotton crafting yarn comparison. I don't know how this will go, other than I know this is probably going to be a long video. I've already been dealing with some technical difficulties trying to get this set up. But yeah, hopefully this is going to work out. But if you want to watch the whole thing all the way through, be prepared to watch for quite a while. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. I did a little bit of experimenting last week to try and figure out how I'm possibly going to see what's absorbent and what isn't. And where I kind of landed here, sorry, again, technical difficulties. There, maybe it won't shift again. This thing has already fallen off my monitor and landed in the bowl of water once. Let's move this over so it doesn't happen again. Okay. Anyway, so I experimented a little last week, and what I landed on was that the most amount of water that seems to be reasonable for any of these to absorb quickly, anyway, and within reason, is about a tablespoon. So I have this little tablespoon scoop here. It's also really hard to, if you have a puddle of water and you try and absorb it from the top, it's really hard to see how quickly it absorbs. So I'm going to be pouring the water from on top to see how quickly it absorbs, and then we'll be checking underneath to see how much is left on the bottom. I'm going to try and time it. So let me get my phone out here. I'm saying try because I don't know how well coordinated I'm going to be with this, which is another reason why I'm filming, because even if I don't see myself what it is, the video should catch it so I can be a little more accurate here. And this is going to constantly be turning off on me because I have my sleep set at a crazy low setting. So anyway, let's try and start this with the first one. So the first yarn here is Hobby Lobby. I love this cotton. And I'm going to try and pour slowly because what happens if you pour too fast is it scatters all over. And what that ends up doing is it'll either, depending on certain claws, it'll run off the edge and then you don't really see. Otherwise, some of them, it'll spread across the top. If you go too fast, and then because there is technically more surface area it's been exposed to, it will absorb more. So I'm trying to pour this slow enough that it'll create just a small patch in the center, so we can kind of determine what the saturation amount is for a smaller surface area. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start here. I'm going to pour slowly. See how it starts to try and shift away from this center area? I'm trying to limit that. So it's about 10 seconds here to start the pour. And see how it's just kind of sitting here? It's really weird, but usually there's a point where it'll all just rush through. It'll reach like a max saturation for the specific area and then just rest underneath. And man, this is taking a little while. I'm going to just pick up a little bit. Okay, see how it just finally started absorbing through? I kind of had to help that one along. But so then look underneath. There's quite a big puddle underneath here still. And there's still water resting on top. So this didn't really absorb too much. See, it even just left drips there. But that's just for a small section. And see, like I said, I didn't actually see what the time was when it finally absorbed through. So this is where I have to try and record in time. So I'm going to loop this back over one more time and absorb. There's still a lot of water left here. So I'll try another corner. Still more. Okay. And I've still got a little water smear there, but basically this one is not absorbing the water very well. Yeah, I know it's really hard to see some of this fine detail. I picked this surface because at least it's not shiny, so hopefully you can see as much of it as possible, but there is a little bit of water there still. So this one obviously didn't absorb things very quickly. I don't know exactly how long it took, but it puddled there for quite a while. There are other ones that definitely do a lot better. I'm skipping here to the Lily Sugar and Cream to show you another one. And I'm going to constantly be having to reopen my phone. Okay, so resetting the timer. Get another tablespoon of water here. And we'll try and slowly pour. So see how quickly that went through? That was at less than 5 seconds. So then the question is, how much is underneath? Look at that. There's hardly anything underneath. Like there's just a little bit of a sheen here from water. Yeah, now you can see it if I flip it up like that. And you know, you can just wipe off that little bit. But that absorbed it so quickly. It absorbed all of it down into the bottom within 5 seconds. So I picked that one for a second so you can see the contrast between the two. Because, like, obviously it just looks like with the first one I didn't know what I was doing. But this one really is not absorbent compared to this. So, again, this first one was Hobby Lobby. I love this cotton. And then this was Lily Sugar and Cream cotton. And, again, I'm only working with a tablespoon of water, which isn't a lot. But, anyway. So, we tested that one in less than a minute. And we found out within 10 seconds that it was really absorbent. So, next one. Premier Just Cotton. Let me get my next scoop going here. Okay. And start pouring. Pour slowly. See how it's trying to puddle across the top? But it still absorbed pretty quick overall. That's at like 7-8 seconds. So not quite as good. Let's see what's underneath. Just a little bit of water underneath. So not quite as good as the Lily Sugar and Cream. But still pretty good. So this was, you know, closer to maybe an overall 10 seconds, but not bad. Alright. So this is Premier Home Cotton. This one's a Cotton Poly blend. This is likely going to, you know, try and pool over the top a little bit more because it's not going to have the immediate absorbency. But let's go ahead and try this one. So 1, 2, 3, slow pour. Starting to puddle across the surface that way. I finished the pour at 4 seconds. It's absorbed through completely at about 9 seconds. Sorry, Chelsea. My dog gets upset with noises. There's a lot more water underneath, though. So it didn't absorb at all. It just kind of sunk through. So I'm going to flip and try and absorb more here. And we're at the 30-second mark. And it did absorb all that pretty quickly. So that's better than the Hobby Lobby I Love This cotton, which is surprising. I would not have expected a poly blend to do better than what's supposed to be 100% cotton yarn. So it could have something to do with the way they've treated it. Oh, and I'm getting my sticky notes all wet now. Ha! Look at this. So I will not put these back on sticky notes. What am I thinking? Anyway, so it probably has something to do with the way they treat the cotton for this yarn to make it so soft, because it is one of the softer cotton yarns in this comparison. It's the one that people call out as being different, and clearly it's not as absorbent as most cottons, and it just got beat by a cotton poly blend. So, okay. Another cotton poly blend, Big Twist. Let's reset this, get my scoop out. Maybe this will go faster than I think if these keep absorbing pretty good. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, start the pour. Okay. I can probably pour these a little faster. I started that pour finished at 5. It's already all the way through by about 7. Not very much left on the bottom. So it absorbed a lot more than the Premier. But there's still a little there. Let me just dry this all the way off. So anyway, Another cotton poly blend that's surprising. It did way better. So let me just go off on a tangent about these two right now. So this is the, okay, so technically these three are the cotton poly blends. Premier Just Cotton was deceptive by the name. I thought it was 100% cotton when I bought it. No, it's a cotton poly blend. It's from Premier Yarns, just like this one. But it's somehow different. It's clearly more absorbent. It's a thicker yarn than Premier Home. Obviously, even though I knit all these as squares and everything, they obviously shrink differently. I actually think, or I theorized before I bought this yarn, that the Big Twist cotton yarn might actually be made by Premier because they have a lot of the same kind of speckled colorways. I ended up deciding I was wrong because this yarn ended up being so much thinner, but I got it in a cone. And I think that maybe the cone, the way it was wound, might have stretched itself thinner. So it is possible that it's made by Premier. Either way, somehow Big Twist is more absorbent, much closer to the Just Cotton than to the Home Cotton. So Premier clearly makes two different grades of cotton, and I would guess that maybe this is similar to what Joanne has. But anyway, moving on, tangent aside. Finette Handicrafter up next. Let me get my timer open again. Okay. No, what? There. No, that's not stopwatch. Never mind. Okay, let me get another scoop of water here. And I'm making such a mess here, but I can't think of any better way to do this. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, finish that pour faster, about 2 seconds. It's absorbed in by 4. With nothing. There's just the slightest little bit of droplets on the bottom that you can barely see on camera. So another really absorbent yarn. Dry the other little drip I got on the side here. Okay. Next one. I have learned that I have to leave the stopwatch open until I'm ready so I don't have to keep unlocking my phone. Okay, so here's another tablespoon. Reset. 1, 2, 3. Okay, pour completed by about 2 seconds. Fully absorbed in by 4. Again, very quick. There's a lot more water underneath, though, than these other ones. Because I'm flipping these back pretty quickly, I think. I'll be able to look back at the footage and see how quickly I'm pulling it back to check. So let me just set that back down for a second. I mean, that absorbed the rest of it pretty quickly. There's still some stuff here. I may need to do this again just for my own sake to control. But if nothing else, you guys can see what the process is in this video. And if I do a subsequent test, I'll just save the results for a blog post or something. Okay. 1, 2, 3. That was a quick pour by 2 seconds. Still sitting there at 5, 6, 7. Still sitting there. 10 seconds still sitting there. 13 seconds still sitting there. 50. Okay, I'm up. Wait, there we go. At 19 seconds, it finally soaked through and left some underneath. So this one, not as absorbent. Even just trying to wipe that edge, it's smeared more than anything. Now I finally got it. So this was the Crafter's Secret Cotton. This was one of the ones that I had thought based off of size adjustments that maybe it would be more absorbent. That's where technically what this test is doing to, address absorbency is basically seeing how quickly it absorbs, which personally I think is kind of more important. Because because, you know, you want to wipe up a spill, you want to wipe it up fast. But it doesn't necessarily reflect how much overall saturation a cloth could use. And that's something I don't think I could technically measure correctly. Not in this format anyway. I would be, because each cloth being different sizes, technically has a different amount of yardage, which would skew. So if I was actually trying to measure true absorbency of water, like 100, like complete saturation, 100% accuracy, I'd have to like take a yard of each. I'd have to weigh it, make sure it weighs the same amount, and then I'd have to see how much water it can soak up, which will still be an interesting test. I may still do that. I'm gonna have to mess with that one, but anyway, we'll continue on with this format for now because this is very interesting. So let me get another scoop here. Okay, so this next one is Red Heart Scrubby. I thought that this one would be super absorbent, just because of the, you know, additional texture, so we'll see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I finished the pour, and it had soaked in, like, within a second. It didn't leave too much of a puddle there. A little bit of one, not too much. And that was easy to wipe up. So this was probably one of the fastest overall absorbs, and you'd almost so this one is a little less dense than some of the other cloths, so you almost would have expected it to leave more of a puddle, but it didn't. There was actually somebody in a Facebook knitting group recently that said something about less dense stitches making more absorbent cloths. And that kind of lends credence based off, I mean, that's basically what we may have just seen. It would be interesting to see if I knit something more dense or crocheted something more dense, if it would absorb just as fast. Not something I'm going to do because I need to stop making work for myself, but an interesting idea, interesting thought. Okay, so for this one, this is the Lion Brand 24/7 cotton. This is mercerized cotton. It should not be as absorbent, so we'll see what happens. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that soaked through really quickly, and it actually absorbed pretty good overall. Let me just set this back down with a dry spot. Yeah, that's actually way more absorbent than I expected it to be. I mean, that absorbed it faster than 2 of the other 100% cotton yarns. So the question is if that is because of density. Let's compare how dense these are. They both look pretty dense. They really do. So it literally is just the yarn. And this is definitely just as dense. And it's technically the same amount of surface area. I mean, it may have spread a little more, so it might be more surface area technically, although not on this one. This had a lot of surface area because it just kept sitting on top. So this is definitely the same, if not more surface area, but it still took longer. And they have the same texture, so that's not a factor. So yeah, believe it or not, 24/7 cotton is more absorbent than Crafter's Secret and the Hobby Lobby I Love This Cotton. Which again, you never would have guessed. But depending on where the cotton came from, it could make sense. Okay, this is the last one. This is Lion Brand Re-Up. This is the recycled cotton. Let me reset. And 1, 2, 3. Finish the pour by 2 seconds. Already in by, that was right before 4. And there's hardly any water left there. Not a lot. Yeah, this is actually the best angle for it. This is what keeps happening when I see it being left. It's like little drops. Kind of like a, it's not really lemon peel look. Maybe it is. I don't know. So again, it kind of the same amount of surface area as this, but absorbed faster, I believe. So okay, this is really interesting. So these two were awful. Dishy didn't do as good as I expected either. That left a little more water underneath than I thought. Scrubby did fine. Re-up did fine. 0.47 did fine. Scrubby did fine. This did fine. Even the blends, this one anyway, and this one, these two are blends, those did fine. Premier Home didn't. And I'm still not entirely sure why it didn't do anywhere near as good as these other two blends. It's definitely not more dense. If anything, it's less dense because of the fact that I used a larger than recommended needle size. It did shrink down a lot, but it didn't make it more dense, I would say. Because if I look through it, I can actually see more holes. So it should technically have, like, the surface area should be able to absorb a little bit more, but, I mean, you saw it. There was a big puddle underneath. So not sure why that was. And then the Lily obviously did great. So we have, out of all of these, out of 11 yarns, we had 4 that basically sucked. I mean, if we're honest, there were huge puddles of water underneath, and the water sat on top for a while. So it's not going to be your quick absorbing, oh crap, spilled something, gotta wipe it up rag. Whereas these ones were, for the most part. To kind of compare and rank them, I'm going to have to look back over this footage and write down all the times and try and make sure that I was as accurate as possible with that. But these are basically our winners, the yarns that we would want to use for washcloths. Even one that I didn't think would be good because it's mercerized cotton, it's still better than 3 100% cotton yarns. And just for fun here, because I know that these two sat forever, I mentally want a refresher on Dishy right now. So I'm going to put these side by side. I'm going to set the timer. I'll do the 1. I would just unlock this with fingerprint, but my fingerprint reader hasn't worked in a long time. Not because my fingerprint reader is broken, but because my fingerprint changed from all sorts of stuff I've been doing lately, getting cuts on my hands and stuff, and I just haven't fixed it yet. So, okay, so let me do Dishy again over here in this corner. So 1, 2, 3. Spread, soaked through by 3 seconds, but left a decent puddle, so I'm going to leave that there. Let's get 24/7. Reset. 1 here. I think there's more room on. No, this corner has the most room. I want to make sure I have some space for it. And it's still going to probably run towards the center, and since it's already soaked, it's going to let more through than before, but 1, 2, 3. That absorbed through it about 3 to 4 seconds. So let's try and compare which side has more water. So this puddle might be a little taller, but there's definitely more water over here. Like that's a no-brainer. Mercerized cotton absorbed more than Knit Picks Dishy, which is really kind of crazy. And this is kind of fun. So I'm going to do this with a couple more. As long as I have corners that are still dry, I'm going to do a few more of these. Let's try doing Lily Sugar and Cream, because that one was really good, compared to Finette Handicrafter, because these two are like some really common go-tos. And then next, maybe we'll put the 2 cotton poly blends next to each other. And after that, if I still have room on Lily, or depending on how they compare Finette, I'll compare to Scrubby. So we'll do this 3 more times because I'm curious. this is how all my projects get so big. I think of a new question, a new hypothesis to ask. So, okay. 1, 2, 3. Finished the pour by 2 seconds. Soaked in by about 4, almost 5. I'm going to flip it back. There's the puddle. Now, I poured that faster, so it was a smaller amount of surface area, which is why it had more of a puddle on the bottom than when I did it the first time. Because by pouring faster, you effectively decrease the amount of surface area that it can come into contact with. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, that absorbed in probably about a second faster. And left nothing underneath. Let's kind of compare surface area size. So this one's variegated, so it's kind of hard to tell. But it's about here to here, which is basically the same amount of surface area. I mean, give or take a little corner like here. But it absorbed. Here, let's see how quick that mops up. Yeah, like this. Like, this isn't bad. This is good, but I'm pretty sure the lily just beat it. Like, pretty freaking good. So, let's take the winner, lily, and pit it against, I'll use this top corner. And, of course, again, there's nothing underneath. It's all dry. And pit it against Scrubby, which, so I know it's really hard to see which part of it's wet here. I can barely tell. I have to feel for it. Okay, there's a pretty good dry corner right here. Okay, so we'll get our scoop. 1, 2, 3. That was really quick. Like, that immediately absorbed in or soaked through. Now, it did leave a puddle. Again, this one's not as dense, so I'm curious to see. Because it's not as dense, there's more, the water can run through the holes faster with a faster pour. So I'm going to try and make sure I do a really fast pour here on the lily. Because that was like 3 seconds for everything. So 1, 2, 3. Still fast pour. That still soaked through, and that was like 2.6 seconds or whatever. Now, granted, I did let that sit a little longer, but there's nothing by comparison. Like, there's 1 or 2 little drops, and there was that left. So, again, lily wins. This is fun. I like this pitting them against each other thing. Okay. Let's do the polys. So this one, okay, this is the driest corner I have here for Big Twist, and there's a pretty decent dry corner here for the Just Cotton. So try and do a fast pour again. 1, 2, 3. Ran all the way over, soaked in by about 2.5 seconds. And of course, it was dry underneath here, and then there's water left where it was already soaked. So this might not be a valid test, just because it hit the wet area. But the same thing might happen over here. There's lots of wet area too. So fast pour. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, absorbed over. That was by 2.5. Flip it back. There is no water underneath here, in spite of it having soaked all the way over. Okay, well, that's good to know. I'm not sure if that was 100% fair comparison, because this one might have been wetter. I don't know. They both hit the wet spot. They both had a dry spot. They both kind of shifted towards the wet spot, but this left nothing, and this had a puddle. So if you're choosing between the $1.49 on sale Big Twist Cotton at Joann versus the $1 per skein Just Cotton from the Dollar Tree, go for Joann's. Or at least I will in the future. Okay, that was interesting. For fun, I'm going to take re-up. and my last remaining corner of Lily and see what happens. Okay. And ignore that drop because that was off. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Second, 2 through. Okay, so finally it got to the point where it hit the wet spot and it soaked through. So the same thing could probably happen over here. Now this part's not exact science because it is hitting wet spots and everything, but none of this is technically an exact science. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That absorbed really quick, about 3 seconds again. They actually left close to the same amount. This left a little more, but this was less soaked. So, like the droplets on this side are a little bigger. Let me, yeah, there you can see. Pretty close, but these droplets are a little bigger. So anyway, at this point, I would say the winner is Lily Sugar and Cream Cotton. Like I said, I'm going to have to go back and review the footage a little bit to kind of check my numbers and accuracy and stuff. But this did really good. This did really good. Scrubby did really good. This didn't do bad. This didn't even do too bad. Like, there are only 4 yarns that I would say, yeah, don't make washcloths with that. And that's the Dishy, the Premier Home, the Hobby Lobby I Love This Cotton, and the Crafter's Secret. At least in terms of something that is able to quickly absorb water, where the water doesn't run off, doesn't just sit there and puddle, doesn't leave too much water behind. This test doesn't, again, like I say, reflect how much water it can absorb as a whole. That would have to be a different video where, again, I'd have to make sure that I use the exact amount of yarn by length and by ounces and somehow is able to measure exactly how much water it absorbed. Like, I think what that would have to be, and maybe I'll do this for fun. Yeah, maybe I'll start another video because I can soak it, see how much it absorbs when it's fully saturated, and weigh it, the difference between wet and dry, to see how many ounces of water it absorbs. And I don't have to do any additional knitting or crocheting for any of that. So I'm actually going to do that. That will be my second measure of absorbency. See what I did? I just created more work for myself. I'm really good at this. So anyway, hope you enjoyed absorbency test number 1, since there's apparently going to be a test number 2 now. If you have any questions, if you have any comments on ways to test this better, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.